Hello, everyone. What comes to mind when someone mentions Singapore to you? For some, it might be the recently concluded F1 night race or our gorgeous skyline along the Marina Bay Sands. And you probably have heard that Singapore is also known as the startup mecca of Southeast Asia. We are home to 20 unicorns, 220 VCs, and 500 investors with 4,000 tech-enabled startups. Singapore ecosystem has been on a growth trajectory with fundraising at an all-time high at $11 billion. As someone who saw Singapore through the different stages of growth in a startup ecosystem, I can tell you that what you see today was many years in the making. Perhaps let me share a little about myself. I'm Shirley. I was an entrepreneur and now the managing director of TNF Ventures. Rewind time back to 1994, the internet was still in its infancy, but my founding team saw that it would one day permeate every corner of our lives. Hence, we established a business to provide software applications, networks, and infrastructure support for companies. There was no such thing as venture funding then. Fundraising overseas were also pretty much fruitless, probably because no one had heard of Singaporean startups, and much less, seen successful ones. So we had to bootstrap and grow the company organically. Maybe because of that, we were very disciplined in our growth, eventually expanding the team from 8 to 5,000 across 11 countries in Asia Pacific. We then brought the company to public, listed it to the Singapore Stock Exchange in 2001, before getting it acquired by British Telecoms in 2008. So that really was a background of how the entrepreneurship scene was like just 20 years ago. Most Singaporeans don't see entrepreneurship as a viable career, and for those that did, there weren't enough avenues to raise funds and grow the operations of a company. Many small and medium enterprises thus remain very small and very focused on the domestic market. So as you can imagine, Singapore's startup scene was considered somewhat of a ghost town compared to Silicon Valley then. 20 years on, Singapore is now bustling with all the accelerators and incubators in town. If you draw a 1 kilometer mark within the radius from where I am sitting right now, which is the Singapore Management University, you'll be able to spot all the funds and VCs with more than $2.6 billion worth of asset under management. The location advantage brings the much needed resources, connections to support the mentors, investors, and business contacts in Singapore. This is not just about the funds. When Singapore first announced the $1 billion fund in 1999 to attract the VC fund managers, the initiative failed spectacularly, as it was just under 2% that was being invested here in Singapore. Learning from the experience, the Singapore government changed its strategy and decided to support the ecosystem growth as a customer. Believing strongly in market-led innovation, the government established several pathways to make it easier for the government and the MNCs to source solutions from the startups. This culminated into a slew of initiatives that included the open innovation challenges and hackathons to help startups connect with the corporates and achieve product market fit quickly. On one end, we have the Open Innovation Platform, where corporates can submit their problem statements and local startups can share relevant propositions that may be applicable to solve their problems. On the other, we have the Lee Kuan Yew Global Business Plan competition organized by the Singapore Management University. For those who may not be familiar, Mr. Lee is Singapore's founding Prime Minister, who was the first to create the business plan for Singapore as a safe harbor in a region of instability. We want to honor that entrepreneurial spirit, and hence we organize the Lee Kuan Yew Global Business Plan competition around the world. Now, please allow me to share some snippets of this epic event.
I believe looking at all the entries of finalists today, it shows to me that all of these companies are trying to solve the world's problems.
This year's submissions were very interesting.
They are clearly deep tech in nature.
We have a bunch of young, passionate people.
From all over the world, I spoke to entrepreneurs from the US today, from China, from Poland, so that was very encouraging.
And not only in terms of the innovativeness of their ideas, but on their imagination to see the impact of their ideas globally.
Some of the teams had really good credentials, they had patents, they had a lot of depth to the technical solution.
We spent a lot of time to debate, and the final decision has not been easy.
I really enjoyed the whole day. I didn't feel that I was sitting in the room.
We also look for tech and product differentiation, so how much tech is there really, how defensible is it, and how different is it from whatever else there is in the market.
How are they going to be different? How are they going to revenue their product, and how are they going to scale the product?
The value of the network that we get from access to prominent VCs in the region, and also learning from the best, learning how they look at deals, how they look at investments.
The winner is Re-Electrify!
We went into the program with the hope that we would learn something out of it, and more importantly that we would connect, and we've been completely impressed. So the quality of judges has been incredible. We've had some great feedback on Re-Electrify, and it has given us some really good thoughts on what we can take as next steps.
And the winner is Iterative Scope.
I'm looking forward to bringing this business home, to bringing this startup home, and to be really being part of the movement towards creating a more innovative society in Singapore.
This is perhaps the best time to go out and dance in the rain and make a difference and create new innovations so that as we emerge, we will all emerge a lot stronger.
Inspiration you've brought to the judges is actually a lot more for us to learn from you than you from us. So we hope that we can have our paths cross in the future and collaborate.
Never ever give up. No matter how amazing your idea, no matter how much hard work you put in, there are always going to be difficult days. And if you can get through those difficult days, I think that's the mark of true survivorship.
Understanding the importance of having a global talent pipeline in enriching knowledge and expertise of startups locally, the Lee Kuan Yew Global Business Plan Competition brings the brightest talents like yourself in universities from around the globe and puts them in conversation with C-suite executives in the MNCs and government agencies through mentorship and deployment opportunities. Beyond the $2 million worth of prizes, the all-expense-paid trip to Singapore, this opportunity helps open doors across the region for the startups. After all, Singapore is a great test bed for new technologies and is the gateway to access the broader Southeast Asia market opportunity. We all know that Singapore is a fertile ground for startups that is easy to do business, has strong infrastructure, and is open towards foreign talent. Whenever I travel, I always have entrepreneurs asking me, where are the market opportunities in Singapore? Are there clusters that we have better support for? Yes, indeed. So let me share with you some headlining sectors. In the logistics sector, the segment grew, this segment alone, it grew more than 3 times. This is not surprising given the growth of e-commerce as well as the challenging logistic landscapes in Southeast Asia. Under the urban solution sector, agri-tech has been seeing traction recently. Singapore set out a national objective of producing 30% of its nutritional needs by 2030. Hence, there is huge investment to make sure this happens, and of course, with the help of technology. Now, as an example, startups like Shiok Meats raised $6.3 million in 2019. And then shortly after, in less than a year, they raised another significant round. And under the consumer tech, we continue to see strong investor interest, especially with the media startups. Investors pour in $4 billion in 2018 and $2.6 billion in 2019. One subsector that continues to grow very strongly is the fintech. Year-on-year investments in fintech have continued to grow substantially. Analytics and AI is also a strong subsector in Singapore, attracting more than $150 million in funding just in the first half of 2020. And last but not least, we have advanced manufacturing, health, and biotech sector, which attracted more than $350 million in 2020, just the first 3 months, exceeding the total of the whole of 2019. We are also likely to see continued interest in this sector, where consumers turn to next-generation appliances and solutions to increase productivity in this COVID-19 era. I feel very fortunate in my current role as a chairperson of the Lee Kuan Yew Global Business Plan Competition, where I'm able to connect mentors and funders to the best and brightest student founders in the world. If you are keen to look at how to expand your business to Asia, look no further. I would highly encourage you to apply to the Lee Kuan Yew Global Business Plan Competition and seize the many opportunities and connections that we have lined up for you. Applications are open right now, all the way till March 2023. Don't wait. Come on. We look forward to welcome you to Singapore in September 2023. Thank you very much.